Hello and welcome to this insider session that we're calling Beyond OTP. I'm Mitch Cutmore, Senior Consultant at GTC, and I'm here with my colleague Guillaume Bourcy, Chief Identity Officer at GTC, and also Luke Abrams, CEO at FaceSign. So jumping right in, guys, Guillaume, you advise the world's largest telcos on messaging and identity. Luke, you're building what comes next for these companies. Between you both, you've seen this transition happens from SMS OTP, going from gold standard in the past to now in this kind of grey territory right now. So where it's necessary, but no longer perhaps sufficient on its own. How would you describe in your words what's changed exactly?
I think you highlighted the right fact that for almost 15 years, more than a decade, the SMS OTP was the backbone of two-factor authentication. Bank trusted it. It was adopted by also regulator that accepted it. And we have seen that, tampering with SMS two-factor authentication for years was very difficult, extremely expensive, and it was difficult to get access to that. But what changed is the post-pandemic, the AI emergence has made the attack surface infinite. We've seen SIM swap fraud that went to really niche events where single crypto wallets were targeted to actually mass industrialized operations, SIM swap at scale. We have seen voice deepfake, video deepfakes that can impersonate customers. So it's not only SMS or two-factor authentication at stake, it was also biometrics. You can bypass the call center verification. You get access to phishing kits, actually for real-time OTP for as low as $100 a month. So the economics flip, meaning that today it costs more to defend than to attack, and that's AI give a lot of good weapons and ammunition to the attackers there.
Yeah, I can chime in on that as well. I'm really proud of my involvement with SMS OTPs. I shipped it to 3.5 billion users 20 years ago. And before that, there really wasn't consumer-grade multi-factor authentication. Unless you had an RSA fob or something like that, you really didn't have access to a significant step up in the ability to authenticate your account. So SMS was a huge leap forward. But what we've always known is there's a fundamental design flaw in it, is that it really only verifies a thing. It verifies that you have a SIM, the ownership of that SIM. And even that, not perfectly, because there's a variety of attacks on that, man in the middle, et cetera. But what none of them verify is that there's a real live consenting human being on the other end of that transaction. It's really just used as a proxy for that. And for a long time, that proxy's been good enough. And the industry was able to optimize for possession, because it's a reasonably straightforward thing to do. It's a reasonably simple user journey to go through to receive a 6-digit code and read it out. But unfortunately, AI has really severed that link of the proxy of ownership of a SIM being close enough for proving that there's a human being. And so, simply getting a one-time password played back into a form that's asking for it, that's a snapshot in time that proves not enough these days. It doesn't prove that there's a real human being on the other end of that transaction, nor does it prove that human being is consenting to what they think they're doing. So we still think it plays a large role in the future, but we need to add additional layers on top of that to get to those. Is there a live human being, and is that intent there?
Sure. I'm sure the phrase AI-powered attack will be raising alarm bells in our audience. So to make that concrete, what does that exactly look like in practice?
Just if you look what the attack were, I would say 2 years ago versus now, I think it's really about the scale and the cost, as we already said before. A couple of years ago, you were going to a carrier shop, get an employee, get him a couple of $1,000, and they were helping you to swap SIMs, right? But as I said before, it was really targeted. Now, go take this recording and this webinar, someone can actually take some extract of a voice, clone it, and then they can go on, and pass that towards the carrier itself as a very convincing Guillaume Bourcy that want to swap his SIM. And you can do that at scale, right? You don't need really even. And so again, the scale and the cost. And that's really what changed over the last few years. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the phishing kits that are really using real-time relay proxies. You go onto this website that are now extremely convincing. I recently seen one of Bank of America, a fake one. You can see it's incredible how realistic it looks. It's really good. And people are just getting in milliseconds. They're convinced they're on the right website. They've been led to a different type of scams there. They enter the OTPs and boom, the attackers have their information and they can get to the real accounts through that. So that's really what changes is really scale and cost for the attackers. And as said before, it costs much more to defend and to attack these days. And so this is very unbalanced compared to a few years ago.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. For sure, scale and cost, but also add sophistication. So I think AI, we're all stunned at how quickly it's evolving and how much better it's getting, almost faster than Moore's Law. Every 6 weeks or so, there's a new model that comes out that's significantly better than the ones before it. And you mentioned things like voice cloning, right? So if I get a 10-second clip of you talking on YouTube for less than a penny, I can go clone your voice and have an automated agent go call up a call center and pretend to be you and do a password reset, do a SIM swap, et cetera. And on the biometric side, it's even scarier, right? It's like the AI has passed the Turing test. It's had its moment where it can fool even a highly trained forensics expert, and it. But even the old adage of hop on a Zoom call with somebody for 5 minutes to make sure it's the real them, that's not even enough anymore to prove that it's a real human being. So it's the arms race is done. Quite honestly, from an AI standpoint, it used to be, I've been in fraud for my entire career. It used to be just this game of whack-a-mole where bad guys will get a little bit smarter, and then you have to make the defenses a little bit better, and it's just this ladder that goes up and up and up. But now in the AI world, that's become really, really inverted. And so that means we just need a different layer for identity verification. And this isn't theoretical. These are fraud production pipelines that are attacking now.
I would like your analogy of a whack-a-mole game where actually you had one head popping up and you're trying to go, right? Here you have all the heads popping up at the same time. And you're just defenseless with your hammer. That's a bit what's happening right now.
Exactly. So if that's the image we've got in terms of the transformation that's happening, then let's go a layer deeper and think about where this is actually hurting the kinds of companies that we're working with. Guillaume, if we think about telcos, fintech, and the kind of companies that we're working with, MNOs, CPaaS providers, how is this actually turning up in their day-to-day business right now?
I mean, first, probably for them, because this thread where their SMS A2P revenue has been a big line items for all these MNOs, this CPaaS. The fintech have been relying heavily on it. And then all of a sudden, the last 2 years, people telling you it's not enough anymore. You guys need to do something else. And the beauty of SMS was its ubiquity, right? It's everybody is the mobile penetration is super high everywhere. People have sometimes 2 or 3 lines. Everybody has a phone and a mobile phone these days. And so what are you doing from passing to an ubiquitous system to something that is not ubiquitous and fragmented, right? And that's how can you piggyback still on this ubiquity, but adding an additional layer of protection. And so when you think about it, we see that the MNOs, for example, they sit on hundreds of millions of subscribers, billions of subscribers worldwide. They control the same relationship, the billing. So they have this opportunity to offer more than just an authentication piece, but really a security layers, really at top. And they can distribute that through their channels. And so that's really a very interesting thing. And same thing for the CPaaS. They have a lot of relationship with mostly digital companies, right? While the mobile operators were owning the relationship with the non-digital back in the days. And so both together can they offer a platform that is AI powered and that offer this AI powered identity verification alongside messaging, network authentication. This is also replacing step by step the SMS. But what can they do and what can they offer in a competitive mode?
And so, Luke, what about things like KYC, age verification? We hear when those topics come up about drop-off rates and friction, but what are you seeing? What's your experience?
Yeah, I think those are really important tools, and especially if you're in a regulated market where you're required to comply with KYC regulations, those are super helpful. What I have seen is that the friction point you raise kind of limits their adoption outside of regulatory scenarios. So what we know that if you do a document-based KYC, and for those that don't know, this is where you take a selfie, take a photo of your passport, driver's license. It's really a conversion killer. Industry data shows that about half of users drop. They abandon the flow if you ask them to take a selfie and go get their ID. And there's privacy concerns. There's, where's my passport? It's some drawer somewhere. And it's just really heavy-handed, especially like in an onboarding flow where I'm not even sure if I want to quite finish the sign-up process yet. So it can limit the adoption. Age verification too is even worse. I mean, the options that are available today are, you ask someone to type their birthday, useless. They're just going to lie and say whatever they want. Or you have them upload an ID, which, depending on the scenario, might be actually quite an insensitive thing to request. Or you use a credit card. We're going to put a 50-cent charge on your credit card. And again, just like SMS, that's just a proxy for age. I can always go, Timmy can go steal Dad's credit card out of his wallet for 30 seconds to do a quick check. My daughter has access to my credit card. She uses it for emergency purchases. And it's just not a good age verification mechanism. And we know that regulation is growing in this arena. EU and UK, as well as many other parts of the world, are tightening requirements. And none of these approaches are really surviving regulatory government scrutiny, nor are they passing the bar of things that customers are actually willing to do for a lot of mainline flows. And the economic cost there it's not just fraud losses; it's also the human in the loop cost. So a lot of these systems also require some human being to sit down and look at a photo of a driver's license and make a determination, and that just doesn't scale. If you want to do something like what they've done in the UK recently, for example, where they've rolled out any age-restricted materials, you have to do age verification. That's completely flattened the providers that have tried to do that because there is a human element to it. So we just know that those old models don't really scale.
Okay, so to recap, so if the status quo is legacy authentication that AI can kind of misstep or kind of find its way around, we've got KYC solutions that users are kind of dropping out of it halfway through, and we've got these human steps in these processes that aren't going to scale. How do we find a replacement that actually fits and clicks for all of these different requirements?
Yeah, so for me, it seems pretty clear that it's got to do three things. One, it has to prove humanity. So it has to be proof of human. So that's liveness and, in some cases, facial recognition, so that it proves that it's the correct human being into the transaction. Second, it's got to be interactive. The AI has gotten so good that you can't simply do passive tests. You can't just decompose all the pixels and run them through mathematical formulas and say definitively yes or no, it's not. You have to interact with it. You have to ask it random. You have to ask the person on the other end a random set of questions. I'll give you an example. If I ask you the last 4 digits of your social security number, you should be able to rattle that off really quick. And if you're an AI and I ask you something random like that, it will introduce artifacts. And the third thing is it's going to be really, really low friction. So if we believe in a world where in 3 years, every high value transaction, something like sending $50,000 over the wire, or doing a password reset, or doing requesting a new SIM, every one of these is going to require some previous human, right? And in order to do that, it's got to be acceptable to the people that are doing it. It's got to take 10 seconds, 12 seconds tops, and not require a lot of back and forth. And it's got to be something that people will accept as this is actually helping me. So if you take those three things, if you buy that hypothesis, we call this solution interrogative AI. So instead of asking the user to prove who they are by submitting evidence, taking a photo of my driver's license, you just have the system itself and AI itself have a brief conversation with you and do the same sort of human verification that we used to do back in the day face to face. Like when you would walk in and talk to a bank teller and like, oh, I'm Mitchell. I remember you. I know that you're a customer here. Yeah, come on in. And during that live, very natural conversation, we can do a lot of things. We can collect biometrics. You can determine if it's a deepfake or not. You can do liveness. And you can tell things like, is this person distressed? And you can request intent. Are you actually intending to do this particular transaction right now?
Yeah, I look from our prism and where GTC customers need to really take action. And so if you're looking from that perspective, you look at the distribution and also for the mobile operators, the interesting part, it's just an API call that you add, right? They can already embed that in their existing authentication flow. Either you are still on SMS or either you are already advanced to network APIs. You not just, it's an extra layer, but you're not ripping out the whole flow that you end off within your infrastructure. And it's already sitting along or on top of what you have. And that's the beauty of it. It's not disruptive from a technology perspective. On the contrary, it's enhancing. On the contrary, for the enterprise customers, and Luke, I really reflect on what you have said. It's just usually with what you have, what you know, two-factor authentication. If you are looking at regulatory, you have also who you are. But I think it's even what you are. Are you a human or are you a bot, right? And if you are a bot, are you one of the good bots, right? No Skynet, right? But it's more about really making sure that you have a live AI verified interaction with the user. And that's definitely from a regulatory perspective all across the world. It checked the boxes that the regulators are starting to enforce. And that's really good. And that's a big, big difference in terms of evidence standard with this almost point that you answer with a solution like we're discussing right now.
So Luke, you mentioned earlier that you are your password. So maybe now's a good time for you to kind of walk us through and show us what that looks like.
So I want to show you FaceSign. That is the product that we built to be what we've just been describing. The future identity rail, the layer on top of the MFA that has been in place for the last 20 years, and something that's really AI proof, can defeat AI fraud, and can also help users to really securely and in a very low friction way identify themselves. And again, we see a world where every high value transaction in 3 years is going to have to do these things. So we built this with ubiquity in mind. And Guillaume, you mentioned earlier that the ubiquity of SMS was one of the winning features that led to its broad adoption. So we built FaceSign to run on any device. Doesn't require install, doesn't require any special hardware. Anything with a camera and microphone can do this verification. So I'm going to show you a live demo. So and feel free, anyone watching or anyone else, go to facesign.ai, try it yourself. It's really cool technology, very easy to see how it works yourself. But let's walk through a particular scenario. So let's say I need to do a high value wire transfer through my bank, or I'm trying to do a password reset, or I need to request a new SIM from my mobile number provider. you would get either embedded within that app, or you get sent a link to do a FaceSign verification. And it looks a little something like this.
Hi there. Are you ready to see FaceSign's verification capabilities?
Yes, I am.
You look like Luke Abrams, CEO at FaceSign. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Great. To verify your identity, I've sent a one-time code to your Outlook.com account. Please read the code back to me when you receive it.
Okay, I'm looking at my inbox. It's 1810.
Thanks, Luke. You're verified. Now take a look at the biometric data we collected.
So you saw how that worked. It was, I don't know, I didn't have a stopwatch, something on the order of 10 seconds. Pretty easy, straightforward. We build all sorts of different flows. You can have that conversation branch in different ways. You can co-brand it with your bank or your telco. You can ask it to send a one-time code to via SMS or email. In this case, I did email. And at the end, we have a pretty rich amount of analysis. So first of all, we've got some age estimation, very flattering. I'm a tiny bit older than that. Tells me my location, presenting gender, device that I'm on, and some really interesting analysis, right? And since it's seen me before, it can actually identify the real person. So it knows that I'm Luke Abrams. It knows that I'm the CEO of FaceSign. And here's some additional signals. So this goes back to the security principle of defense in depth and having multiple different layers, of which multi-factor authentication and round-tripping of one-time code is one important layer. But as we've been discussing all along, it's not enough. So first of all, here we did facial recognition, liveness assessment, so it can tell that I'm not a deepfake. Coercion. This one's going to be increasingly important, we think. So it can tell if I'm being coached, if there's someone off screen, if I'm in emotional duress. So we have a lot of really rich models that are able to tell if the user is expressing their own intent. Conversational analysis. Am I saying anything weird or off script? Am I giving any signals that I'm maybe not in the best state of mind to be able to authorize this transaction? Are there any suspicious objects? Do I have an earpiece that maybe somebody's giving me instructions? Are there unusual things in my environment? For example, if I say that I'm calling in from London, UK, which I am, and that's what my IP address says, but if there's a European power outlet on the wall behind me, that's actually suspicious from how you're presenting to be. And then behavioral anomalies. This can tell if the person is inebriated, if it's an elder abuse scenario, if the person is in distress or hurried and rushed. And at the end of it all, you get this 30-second, 10-second video of that entire session. So this is really great for things like first-party fraud, right? So sometimes it's, as I've been talking all along, SMS OTP is a great way to tell if someone has a phone or a SIM card. And even really, really deep identity verification, you can tell, this is the right person. This is the right Luke Abrams. But do you have the right intent, right? So think of this video evidence as the Ring doorbell camera for your digital front door. And so for first-party fraud, for APP fraud, for romance scams, pig butchering scams, et cetera, having this piece of attributable evidence of someone saying, yes, my name is Luke Abrams, yes, I approve this transaction is super, super helpful.
Okay, wow. Thanks, Luke. That was really compelling. So if there are any MNOs or CPaaS providers watching this, how does this fit into their current tech stack?
Yeah, no, great question. So we built it to be easy to integrate. So it's just an API. You send us a session request, return a link, or if you want to embed this natively within your app, that's also great. And then the customer just goes through this flow, like I just showed you. Customer taps the link, or they get sent to them via SMS, or they tap the approve with FaceSign button and go through this quick 10-second flow. And it works across a number of different use cases. So we've kind of talked about step-up authentication. This is a lot of places where SMS OTPs are deployed today, high-risk transactions, account recovery, anything that's an account takeover surface area. This is also really great for KYC and onboarding. If you don't need somebody's photo of their passport, it's a pretty low friction way of doing the same sort of a job that KYC does, but without killing conversion. And it's also a really great way to do age verification in a way that is compliant with all the latest regulations, but without all the friction and the privacy concerns. Then I guess I'd say for MNOs specifically, you already own the subscriber relationship. And what FaceSign lets you offer is identity verification as a value-added service to your enterprise clients. So banks, fintechs, insurers, you can do this through your existing APIs.
This is one of the reasons also GTC is partnering with FaceSign, right? Our clients are already asking us, okay, what's after OTPs alone? And I want to invest in network APIs, but how do I ensure the continuity and the longevity of that too? And I think that having FaceSign embedded with that network API mode is really building the higher trust standard that is needed for not only the MNOs, but for the MNOs to reclaim that what they used to have with SMS OTP, but also for banks, fintechs, having more and more burden in terms of fraud. The cost associated with fraud being also exponential and imposed also by some of the regulators. They need something really that help them to have a verification, I'd say something efficient from a cost and fraud ratio perspective. Super important. And so that's aligned perfectly how the telcos, the CPaaS provider are also building the commercial models, right? You have per API calls also with FaceSign, for example, and that's a really great model and the best way also to expand commercially and technically with the team there.
Well, I think great. So final question, I guess, Luke, if someone wants to get started and explore this for their business, what's the fastest way to get to you?
Yeah, I'd say probably the fastest way is through GTC. So yeah, Guillaume and the team are really great. We've known and worked with them for a long time. And if you're watching this, they probably are already working with you. They understand your business, they understand your deployment environment, and they are probably best positioned to sit down with you and work out which use case do you want to focus on first, right? My guess is that every modern telco working with you today has tons and tons of scenarios, and we don't want to boil the ocean. So pick the one that you want to focus on first, whether that's step-up authentication, KYC, age verification, etc. And then what we can do is we can scope a guided pilot tailored to your specific scenario, and we do this at no cost. We can spin up a very custom demo within a matter of hours, embedded right within your experience. And you kind of take that around with stakeholders. And then let's sit down and work through what a quick pilot would look like to be able to test if this is going to be effective within your environment. Also, if you want to kick the tires further, go to FaceSign.ai. We have API documentation that's public facing. You and your technical teams can go look at that. You'll find that it's pretty modern. This is more something along the lines of an afternoon of work for a reasonable developer. Modern RESTful APIs, etc.
Yeah, let's reach out to GTC, right? To the team here at GTC, or you can use the link that we're going to add in the description below this video. And we can set up a joint session with FaceSign, also tailored to your specific deployment scenario. Explain that in more details. So pretty straightforward there.
Great. And we have the link also to request a demo to get started in the description. So if you're watching this, just go straight there. That's also a very quick way to get started. If you're in MWC next week, obviously reach out to either Guillaume or Luke because they'll both be there. Final words, Guillaume, from you?
I think this is, we are very excited with the opportunities that FaceSign solution is offering to the CPaaS, MNOs, and how complementary it is from network APIs, from the other solution. It's very simple to to have that at top of the existing flows. So yeah, don't hesitate too much. I think it's a no-brainer.
Great, thank you. And Luke?
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me, Mitch and Guillaume. Really great chatting with you, and stay safe out there.